Today we have with us Siri Chilazi. She is a gender expert, senior researcher at the Women in Public Policy program at Harvard Kennedy School, and the co-author of Make Work Fair: Data-Driven Design for Real Results. Let's jump in. Let's talk about your new book. You talk about norm entrepreneurs. Can you
Mm.
describe what that is? And then how might that apply for one of our listeners?
I love that you bring this up because norm entrepreneurship is something that all of us can do immediately today to make the workplace more fair without any special programs or training or without really even any extra time. So, norms, of course, are the shared but often unspoken understandings that we have about what kind of behavior is acceptable or expected in any given context. So, think back to the last time you started a new job. On day one, HR probably gave you a manual that had some formal policies about things like vacation time and parental leave, perhaps, and confidential reporting. But those manuals never address the things that you actually need to do for your day to day work. Things like, do meetings start on time or 3 minutes after the hour? Is it okay to challenge a senior leader face to face? Or do I have to speak to them one on one or maybe never challenge them at all? How do I get promoted? How do I know when I'm ready? Right? These are all the questions that we have, but the formal manuals tend to never address them. Instead, we learn that information by looking around and seeing what people are actually doing. So we humans are very attuned to these norms that govern our individual behavior and our collective behavior. So, a norm entrepreneur, quite simply, is someone who works to change norms in a positive direction. So, let's say that your meetings currently have a culture of rampant interruptions. People are interrupting each other, being very aggressive. This happens in a lot of environments, and research does show that women are more likely than men to get interrupted. So if you feel this is unproductive and you'd rather sit in meetings where everyone gets to finish their thoughts respectfully, you might be a norm entrepreneur and interrupt the interrupter next time and say, "Oh, James, I look forward to hearing your point, but I'd love to have Alexandria finish hers, please, first, and then we'll come back to you." And that sends a subtle signal to everyone in the meeting that, oh, maybe interrupting isn't the best thing to do. Alexandria was still talking. The right thing to do instead is to let her finish first. And if you do that once, and maybe next week another colleague inspired by you does it a second time, pretty quickly you've shifted the norm in your meetings to one where interruptions are no longer tolerated and are much less prevalent. So I invite all the listeners to think about what's one behavior that you would love to see change in your workplace. It could also be, meetings always start late, right? And you'd say, actually, I just love for meetings to start on time. Well, you could start to shift that norm by making sure that you start all your meetings on time, that you show up to meetings that are facilitated by others on time. And you could even make it explicit and say, hey, folks, I think it would be a better use of our time if we always started meetings on the hour and then maybe tried to finish 5 minutes early to give folks a little transition break in time to where they're going. So I'm going to be piloting this from now on in all of the meetings that I spearhead. And I really invite you to join me. And let's check in 2 weeks to see how we're liking this new way of working.
I love it. You're stealing my last question and giving folks homework to think about. So this is good because was going to explicitly ask you if folks want to start with one small shift tomorrow to make their work fairer, what would you recommend? What can they start doing?
I'm going to recommend two things, if I
Okay.
may.
Yeah.
So, one is norm entrepreneurship that we just talked about. All of us have ways to be a norm entrepreneur. I'll give you one that I do that I love. Anytime I'm invited to do something, speak at a conference, be a resource to a journalist, whatever it is that I can't do, instead of declining, I redirect that opportunity to somebody else. And I say, I'm
Mm.
so sorry, I have a date conflict for that conference, but here's three other incredible speakers on this topic that I would highly recommend. And that's an act of micro sponsorship because I'm channeling opportunities to people who may not have gotten them initially, but who are highly deserving and excellent at what they do. Okay, so that's norm entrepreneurship. But the other piece of homework is, and actually, it was someone in London at one of our book events that mentioned this as their takeaway, and it so resonated with me. And it is all of us have a system that we can control. So find your system. If you're a senior leader in the organization, you control the L&D function. You have sweeping authority to change the programs, to change the content of the programs, start new ones, sunset old ones. But even if you're the most junior person on the team, you might be in charge of the marketing of those programs, choosing which photos and visuals to use or whose work to highlight. Those are all opportunities to make work fair and think about, are we being representative in how we talk about our work and whose work we highlight and who we're inviting to participate and the rules that we have in place about what the criteria are to take part in a program. So all of us, however big or small, have a system that we can influence.